One source is telling CNN that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is in, quote, full paranoia, back against the wall mode. So let's take a little month-long walk down memory lane. Signalgate kicked off March 24th. There were fired officials, a damning op-ed from the former Pentagon spokesperson John Oliot, revelations of a second Signal group chat where Hegseth shared military plans with his wife, brother, and lawyer, and new CNN reporting today on his wife's prominent role at the Pentagon. Hegseth says everything's going great.
It's a lot of change very quickly. Now, as you may have noticed, the media likes to call it chaos. We call it overdue. How are the men and women responding to this call? Well, I can tell you personally, it's going better than we could have ever expected.
Just to be clear, it was John Oliot, the OG Trump supporter back in 2016, who was until recently working for Pete Hegseth, who says that there's chaos at the Pentagon, not just the media. But anyway, in a sign that all may not be well for Hegseth in Trump world, CNN is reporting the president has been soliciting feedback from the people around him about Hegseth. That's according to two people familiar with the conversations. Still, the vice president said this today.
Look, I have 100% confidence in the secretary. I know the president does, and really the entire team does. It's one of the most bizarre things about the Hegseth nomination. From the very beginning, the media seemed to want to tank it. And when they failed and they got confirmed, they decided they wanted to keep on that effort to destroy Pete Hegseth as a man, as the Secretary of Defense.
Chuck Todd, is there ever a more straightforward sign in Trump world that you are on your way out the door than the president suddenly starting to ask the people around him about you?
By the way, for some of us in the press who've had a on-again, off-again relationship with the president, I've been on the receiving end of that myself. What do you think of so-and-so? I'm thinking about getting ready. You're just like, really? You know, it's the strangest thing when he does, because he'll reach out to anybody on this stuff, right? Like, not just, supporters, because he wants to know what press thinks, wants to know what, he is one of those. The point is, that's a very bad sign for Hegseth. Because to also translate what J.D. Vance wants to say, the media can't make up a story without sources. What's really the issue for Pete Hegseth is there are a lot of Republicans who never thought he was qualified, aired their dirty laundry. A lot of Republicans and a lot of people in the Pentagon who are just military folks who do not believe he knows what he's doing, airing their dirty laundry. And then you have some people who even go on the record and write op-eds and I have to say, there's a lot of shocking things. That was one of the more shocking. Wow, like within 48 hours of leaving the Pentagon, you decided, and can you imagine politicals, really? You want to do this on the record? Okay, here you go, we'll give you a byline and everything. This has all the hallmarks of, now Trump doesn't want to give a scalp to the media. Pardon I know some people don't, but that word, so I apologize for using that, but doesn't want to, quote, give the media a win. So it's not going to happen probably within the next 96 hours. But, I'd be on a month-to-month lease if I worked for him right now.
Brad Todd, you obviously very familiar. You spent a lot of time talking to Republican senators. You followed his confirmation process. Chuck's correct. There were a lot of reservations behind the scenes. Ultimately, everybody kind of got it together and got on board. How long do you think Hegseth
Well, I predicted he'd get confirmed the first day when he was under fire the first day. I think that if Donald Trump fires Pete Hegseth right now, the Democrats and the media will own his successor. And if he doesn't get fired right now, Donald Trump owns the Secretary of Defense. And I think that means something to Donald Trump. If I were Pete Hegseth, I'd stay on the road. He was at the War College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania today. I would stay on the road talking to majors and captains and colonels, the people who are his constituents.
Go visit bases, right?
Go visit bases. Keep doing the job out in public. Keep doing a good job on television. And I think that's the path. That's the path forward for him. He needs to have fights with the media. That's good for him with Donald Trump.
The worst part about this is we're talking about the politics around all of this. The reality is that if they're not going to fire Hegseth, who is going to get fired for sharing classified information ever in this administration? We had Petraeus share classified information with his lover. He pled guilty. We had an Army reservist send information out, classified information, to 10 of his buddies. He got 15 years in prison. This man shares classified information with his wife and his brother.
Actually,
has not denied it. It's only has said it's a leaker that is has called out a leaker, But the reality is that just shows that it's true. He's never said that it is false. He has never proven otherwise, and that is just of grave concern.
Is this a technicality that he's arguing, by the way? Which is because he's the Secretary of Defense and he has some declassification power?
Yeah,
Is
Elliot,
this one of
that's
those things
No,
that
that's-
once I put it in the Signal chat,
That's-
I've declassified?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
One, any briefing he would have gotten at the time he came into the job would have made clear you can't be using Signal for any such type
You're
of
assuming they
communications.
got those briefings. They did not do those briefings.
I would hope they
I actually
did.
agree with you. They did not, because people
They
who
didn't.
exited
Okay,
also didn't get those briefings.
Okay, problem strike one. Number two, no, it's the reckless sharing of information that he knows to be sensitive. So of course it's wrong. What I find remarkable about this debate that every single person on this panel, including our friend Brad, is touching on here is that no one seems to be defending his competence or fitness for the job. All of the questions about Pete Hegseth are, well, it would be a pain in the ass to put a new one in, or, well, the media or Democrats would win if we put a new one in. No one is really jumping to this.
I want to correct that a little bit. His job is to be disruptive, and it's to transform the Pentagon and wipe the Obama imprint off of it. And that was always going to be a job that was sticky.
Well, but Brad, some of the reporting around this, I take your point that some of this is what he promised that he was going to go in there and do. But the Times was reporting yesterday that the Trump White House kept calling the Pentagon because there was something Trump wanted done sitting on Hegseth's desk that needed his signature. And the incompetence in his office was so high that nobody could get him to put pen to paper and sign the dang thing.
He doesn't have a chief of staff. At least I believe as of right now, the Pentagon literally does not have someone running the office of the Secretary of Defense. That is just basic malpractice for running.
It just
not
seems
a
like it's
business.
going beyond the disruption that you're talking about.
Well, he needs to disrupt competently. That's for sure. It doesn't matter if he irritates Democrats and if he irritates the media. He obviously does have to do what the White House wants. Every cabinet secretary is going to figure that out. There are no independent cabinet secretaries in this administration.
But let's go back to something you sort of implied, which is once Donald Trump concludes that somebody's no longer helpful to him, they're out. And I think we're getting awfully close to his pain threshold.
Let's talk about Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Your fellow Republican Congressman Don Bacon, a former Air Force general, told me yesterday that if he were president, he would fire Secretary Hegseth, particularly because of the sharing of classified information, and then denying that it ever occurred, denying it was a problem. Earlier today, Republican Senator Kevin Cramer suggested that Hegseth, a former Fox News Weekend co-host, needs some more expert help around him. What do you think? Do you agree with either one of those Republicans?
Well, as I said from the very beginning, when that first story came out, any classified or sensitive information or material that is shared or discussed on an application like Signal is wrong. It should never be discussed outside of a classified setting. All of us as members of Congress have to go in the skiff when we discuss classified or sensitive information. And that is, of course, how it should be. So I think, obviously, the White House admitted that when it first occurred. I think, obviously, all proper precaution needs to be taken to make sure that that does not happen again. With respect to those around him, obviously, we've seen some layoffs and terminations over the past week. Individuals who were leaking information, out of the Department of Defense. Of course, he needs to make sure that the staff around him is not only, working in the best interest of the Department of Defense, but that they have the skills and qualifications necessary to do the job. When I look at the Defense Department and thus far the actions that have been taken by the department with respect to missions like in Yemen, they've gone very well. And I think that speaks, of course, to the strength of our military and our military professionals. And we need to continue to make sure that the resources and support are there to execute the missions properly.
To be clear, none of the individuals fired have been proven to have leaked anything. The only person we know who has sent out sensitive information that reached people not authorized to get it is Secretary Hegseth.
Well, again, obviously, we don't have all the information, and neither does CNN. But I think the fact that you had multiple people terminated speaks volumes to the fact that they lost the trust of the secretary and the department. So ultimately, we need to make sure that the personnel there are there to work in the best interests of the department and the American people. That's why you're in government. That's why you're in these positions of power. And just, as somebody who's been both staffer and an elected official, I always find it jarring when people are out there leaking and or obviously engaged in the backbiting after being terminated. It serves nobody but themselves. My view ultimately is the objective here is to make sure you have a department that is focused on its core mission, which is the defense of the United States of America.
Republican Congressman from New York, Mike Lawler, thank you so much. Appreciate it.